All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about the architecture that's supposed to be the future of enterprise AI, especially in a world like market research where the stakes are incredibly high. You've probably heard the term retrieval-augmented generation, or just RAG. It's being sold as this foundational promise for building AI systems that you can actually finally trust.
And the potential is absolutely massive. Just think about it for a second. The idea is to finally put an end to those crazy AI hallucinations and unlock decades of knowledge that's just been sitting there. All those PowerPoints, all those PDFs, all those tracker studies buried in some archive. The promise is so compelling. Instant, grounded answers from your own body of work.
But there's a catch, isn't there? The reality is that a lot of companies are rushing to implement this stuff, and it's just not working. What you get are these answers that sound incredibly confident, but they're completely untraceable. And a lot of the time, they're just flat out wrong. Now, when you're making million-dollar decisions based on this stuff, that's not just unhelpful, it's downright dangerous.
So, let's break down why this is happening. We got to start with the most common approach, the one everyone tries first, vector RAG. It's the simplest way to get started, but honestly, it's built on some seriously flawed logic.
So how does this thing even work? Well, conceptually, it's pretty straightforward. It takes every piece of text you have, converts it into a bunch of numbers, a coordinate basically, and then plots it on this giant complex map of meaning. When you ask a question, the system just finds the dots on the map that are mathematically closest to your question's dot and feeds those to the language model. Simple, right?
Well, here's the killer flaw, and it is a big one: context fragmentation. In order to create that map, vector RAG is forced to chop up all of your documents into these tiny, isolated individual chunks. And when it does that, poof, it completely strips away all the crucial relationships between brands, competitors, metrics, all the connections that actually give your research its value in the first place.
And this right here really nails the core issue. See, vector RAG is amazing at searching. It will find every single mention of a theme across hundreds of reports in seconds. But what businesses actually need isn't a search engine. They need a reasoning engine. They need something that understands the explicit connections between ideas so it can synthesize a real insight. Without that, you're not getting grounded answers. You're just getting very confident guesses.
Okay, so how do we fix this? Let's move on to the next evolution here, which is graph RAG. This entire approach was designed specifically to solve that problem of context fragmentation we were just talking about.
So instead of just isolated chunks of text, graph RAG organizes all of your information into what's called a knowledge graph. Now think of this like a big web. The web is made of nodes, those are your key things, your entities, and edges, which are the lines that represent the verified relationships between them. So the structure, the context, it's all preserved from the very beginning.
Let's make this real. How does this apply in the real world? Okay, in a market research context, your nodes would be things like brands, studies, or metrics. The edges are those critical relationships, like one brand that competes with another, or a specific metric that was measured by a specific study. These relationships get encoded right up front, which gives the AI verified, structured context to reason with. It's a game changer.
But we all know market research data is, well, it's messy. It's a mix of clean, structured tables and a whole lot of unstructured text. And that brings us to the next logical step, hybrid RAG. This is all about combining the best of both worlds.
So here's the 1-2 punch of how it works. Step 1, vector search does what it's great at. It rapidly scans everything and pulls in a broad set of stuff that might be relevant. Super fast. But then comes step 2. Graph reasoning takes over. It analyzes all the verified connections within that content to build a precise and, most importantly, an explainable insight. You get the speed and the accuracy.
This whole approach really gets at a fundamental point that AI pioneers like Dr. Fei-Fei Li have been making. Large language models are brilliant at predicting the next word in a sentence. They can generate language that sounds totally convincing, but they don't have true understanding. That structured data, that knowledge graph, that's what constrains the AI's creativity and grounds its output in cold, hard fact.
So that leads to the big question. We've got speed, we've got structure, but for the kind of high-stakes decisions that enterprises have to make, is even a sophisticated hybrid RAG system enough all by itself? The answer is no. There's still one critical piece of the puzzle missing.
And that brings us to the complete solution, the RAG framework. This is the final layer. This is the missing piece that you need to build true, lasting confidence in enterprise AI.
The RAG framework is actually pretty simple.
It takes that powerful hybrid RAG system we just talked about, the retrieval-augmented generation, and it adds a crucial final component. The E stands for continuous evaluations. And let me tell you, that E is what turns a powerful tool into a genuinely trustworthy system.
So what exactly is this evaluation layer? Well, think of it like a system that's constantly running in the background, like a tireless auditor. It's enforcing grounding, it's preventing the AI model from drifting off course over time, it's catching errors early, and it's creating a full audit trail for every single insight the system generates.
And these evaluations absolutely have to be continuous because the world of research is never static, right? New studies are launching all the time. Trackers evolve, methodologies shift. A one-time check is useless. This continuous evaluation is the only thing that ensures the system stays accurate and reliable over the long haul.
All of this points to a really fundamental shift in what we should all be expecting from our insight systems. You know, the future isn't about getting static reports delivered a little bit faster. It's about having dynamic, trustworthy decision guidance at your fingertips.
And this really gets to the heart of the whole thing. The primary goal for enterprise AI can't just be about speed. It has to be about explainability, validation, and trust. The ability to see exactly how an insight was formed, that's what separates a neat trick from a mission-critical tool you can bet your business on.
So I'll just leave you with this final question to think about. If you can't see the logical, step-by-step path behind an AI-generated insight, how confident should you really be acting on it? Ultimately, the architecture is what determines the level of trust you can have. And when the stakes are high, trust is everything.